don't have no felonies. I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And seems like JayZ don't want to say anything. So, I don't want to see him go down for something that you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
For more than a decade, Rymir Satterthwaite has waged a quiet, relentless war against one of the most powerful empires in entertainment. While the world has watched JayZ transform from street legend to billionaire mogul, Rymir has remained in the shadows, pressing for one simple answer: who is my father? But the silence from JayZ's camp hasn't just been cold, it's been calculated. Rymir says he hasn't received so much as a letter from the man he believes is his biological father. Not a denial, not an acknowledgement, nothing but legal gymnastics and a wall of moneyed obstruction. This is not about greed or spectacle, it's about uncovering the truth, Rymir told the Daily Mail. Yet the closer he's gotten to that truth, the more perilous things have allegedly become.
A lot of potential. Jay was more quiet. But I mean, I learned that Jay was being quiet because he was taking notes. He was taking notes, observing everything, taking it all in. Because, sometimes you're around and you're watching to see things to do. But some people are around.
What started as a paternity dispute has spiraled into a murky labyrinth of intimidation and suppression. Rymir and his late mother, Wanda, claimed in sworn affidavits that she became pregnant at 16, following a brief encounter with a then 22-year-old Sean Carter, before the name JayZ even carried weight. Since her passing, Rymir and his guardian, Dr. Lily Coley, have kept the fight alive. But according to recent legal filings, their quest for transparency has been met with more than just courtroom technicalities. They allege forged documents, sealed court records, and even sanctions levied for violating gag orders that never existed. Their lawsuit outlines a decade-long obstruction campaign targeting not only their case but their credibility. Behind the scenes, Rymir's camp claims that JayZ's legal team didn't just resist cooperating, they retaliated. In one particularly grim allegation, they say evidence was planted in an attempt to discredit Rymir's character. Threatening phone calls, shadowy visits, and attempts to coerce silence have all been described by those closest to him. The question that haunts the edges of this story isn't just whether JayZ fathered a child in the early 90s, but what he's gone to such lengths to hide. Because according to Rymir and Coley, this isn't just about paternity anymore. This is about legacy, power, and the possibility that acknowledging Rymir could unravel something far more dangerous than a birth certificate.
JayZ got his whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You gotta imagine, the feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your whooped.
And that brings us to the most unexpected player in this high-stakes drama, Tina Knowles Lawson. JayZ's mother-in-law and Beyonce's mother has, according to insiders, taken on the role of protector, not of her daughter, not even of her grandchildren, but of JayZ, and her involvement hasn't been subtle. Legal whispers describe a so-called cleanup fund, a pool of resources allegedly controlled by Tina to quietly settle inconvenient legal matters before they surface. Some even believe she's the quiet architect behind the push to bury Rymir's claims. One former entertainment lawyer described her as the ultimate fixer, claiming she's made calls to judges and pulled strings that go far beyond what the average mother-in-law might do. Which begs the obvious question, why? Why would Tina Knowles insert herself so deeply into a paternity dispute involving her son-in-law?
I sat there and I thought about how the media portrays Black men and how that is typical of the things that they would focus on.
Some speculate it's about family unity. Others say it's about control. But a more chilling theory has emerged, one that ties Tina not just to protective instincts but to a web of occult influence. Online forums and anonymous sources have long whispered about Beyonce and JayZ's alleged ties to secret societies. But lately, eyes have turned to Tina. Former staffers have claimed she oversees spiritual rituals before major business decisions, and that she keeps certain objects in her home that are not for decoration. While none of these claims have been verified, the consistency of the rumors and Tina's unrelenting grip on the family narrative have ignited fresh intrigue. Is she simply a powerful matriarch, or something more? What's clear is that Tina's loyalty to JayZ has at times eclipsed her public support of Beyonce. Those close to the family have quietly pointed out that Tina's public posts and appearances often prioritize her son-in-law's ventures. When Beyonce was facing backlash after her Super Bowl performance years ago, Tina was relatively silent. But when JayZ's name started swirling in the Diddy-linked scandals and paternity whispers, she came out swinging in subtle but deliberate ways, aligning herself with attorneys, scrubbing her social media, and allegedly confronting individuals close to Rymir about their dangerous behavior. That, at least, is what one anonymous source close to Decoy claims. They say Tina's quiet intimidation tactics have become a central part of the machinery keeping Rymir in the shadows.
I don't think they are scared of him. I think they more so, they don't want him to embarrass their reputation and things that they've been known for. You understand?
Meanwhile, the so-called inner circle of silence has grown stronger, not weaker. JayZ and Beyonce's sphere is known for its airtight security, legal, digital, physical, but whispers persist that the silence isn't just loyalty, it's fear. Multiple former employees have reportedly signed NDAs that extend years beyond their contracts. Some insiders say they were paid handsomely to remain mute. One even claimed they were visited late at night by an attorney who told them, "You don't want to be remembered for saying the wrong thing." And then there's the speculation that some of the silence isn't just encouraged, but enforced. We don't say this lightly, but several former insiders have gone on record, some anonymously, some publicly, with allegations of bizarre run-ins, surveillance, and pressure tactics that go well beyond standard celebrity paranoia.
No, this part is not alleged. JayZ and his team, they have been ducking and dodging, taking the deal.
In the background of all this is a lawsuit that won't fade. Filed last year, it alleges systematic fraud by court officials, including judges who allegedly misrepresented JayZ's property ownership to dodge jurisdiction. The plaintiffs say records were sealed without proper authority, sanctions were issued without proof, and appeals were blocked through procedural sabotage. They even claim that JayZ's team knowingly provided false addresses to avoid New Jersey courts, only for those claims to be quietly walked back in court transcripts once the real property deeds were discovered. And here's the kicker: if the fraudulent actions can be proven, then every ruling based on them could be voided, opening the door for the very thing JayZ has avoided for years, a court-mandated paternity test. But if that happens, it's not just JayZ who risks exposure, it's everyone who's played a role in keeping this secret buried. Because the legal system didn't fail Rymir once, it allegedly failed him over and over again, for more than a decade. And through every twist, JayZ's camp has used its wealth and reach to move the goalposts. When jurisdiction was challenged, they claimed no ties to New Jersey. When evidence surfaced that JayZ did in fact own property there, his attorney admitted she had misspoken. When that wasn't enough, they argued that Rymir was too old. And when even that didn't hold up under New Jersey law, the court simply dismissed the case anyway.
This morning, rap mogul JayZ is denying allegations he assaulted a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include JayZ. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was assaulted by both men.
None of this even touches the recent allegations linking JayZ to a separate civil suit involving Diddy and an incident dating back to 2000 in which both men are accused of unspeakable acts at an after-party following the MTVVMA. JayZ has called the claim a blackmail attempt and insists he was added to the lawsuit for attention. But Rymir has used that very statement to highlight what he sees as hypocrisy. If Mr. Carter values the ideals of honor and protecting children, as he claims in his letter, he should step forward with transparency, Rymir said. Instead, JayZ has doubled down on deflection, painting his accusers as greedy opportunists, which would be easier to believe if there weren't so many of them. At this point, we're no longer looking at a simple he said over a paternity test. We're looking at a decade of obstruction, a swirl of elite silence, and a family machine that seems willing to protect its king at any cost. With every ignored affidavit and every mysteriously sealed file, the question grows louder. What exactly are they protecting? What are Beyonce and her mother protecting? And why are the people closest to JayZ seemingly more panicked about Rymir than about the federal headlines swirling around Diddy?
After they are done with Diddy, JayZ is up next to be exposed, right?
It's not just about one man's identity, it's about an empire that may be built on buried secrets. One young man has spent his adult life asking for clarity, only to be met with tactics that some say feel more like a political cover-up than a celebrity scandal. And as Rymir's legal team pushes, once again, to unseal the records, to re-examine the fraud, and to finally demand that DNA speak where lawyers won't.
Now, he, of course, is more than annoyed, would be an understatement. He has a family and he has a lot to protect, including his brand. But to the extent that he's saying, hey, come after me criminally, that could be likely. Why do I say that? Because in New York, and what's alleged in this complaint is forcible compulsion. What that means in English is that it's saying that he held her down.
And here's where it all starts to crack open, because behind the evasions and court delays, there's one damning fact that's gaining traction. Wanda Satterthwaite was underage when she allegedly conceived Rymir, 16 years old. If her sworn affidavit is to be believed, she and JayZ had a brief, unprotected encounter in 1992, when he was 22. That puts the entire situation under a much darker lens, not just ethically, but legally. The timeline places their alleged meeting in New York, where the age of consent is 17. If that's true, JayZ's avoidance of a paternity test may have nothing to do with public image and everything to do with avoiding legal scrutiny that could shatter his empire. And if this was ever confirmed in court, we're not talking about a scandal anymore. We're talking about a potential legal firestorm with consequences that go far beyond paternity. Wanda tragically isn't here to defend her claims. She passed in 2019 after years of deteriorating health and an uphill legal battle. But her testimony lives on in court documents, in affidavits, and in the haunting silence that followed her final filings. Her friends say she became increasingly fearful in her final years, and some even believe she may have been pressured into backing down. Could she have taken secrets to the grave? It's not out of the question. And that lingering unknown adds a heartbreaking layer to Rymir's fight, because it's not just his truth at stake anymore, it's hers too. A young woman allegedly abandoned by one of the most powerful men in music, left to raise a son amid denial and legal gamesmanship. And now that son is standing alone at the gates of a billion-dollar dynasty, demanding to be heard.
It's not just about me. If I gotta fight for all of us, I will, but I won't let the court systems just walk over me. I won't let JayZ, I won't let no one just walk over me and tell me something because y'all just saying this. I want the truth. And if we can't go to the Supreme Courts, the regular courts, to find out the truth, what are they here for?
Yeah, all right, we'll get to the legal things that you've been through, the battles.
And yet what he's met with doesn't resemble justice. It resembles something closer to a fortress. Records sealed without explanation. Sanctions issued for rules no one can find. Judges allegedly misrepresenting property ownership to toss out cases. Attorneys admitting, in open court, that they misspoke about where JayZ lived, all while claiming he couldn't be tried in New Jersey despite property deeds proving otherwise. The legal gymnastics are staggering, and if these tactics were used to block one case, what are the odds it's happened before? That question takes us straight into the orbit of Sean Diddy Combs, whose own legal troubles have exploded across headlines in recent months. The timing is impossible to ignore. Just as the accusations against Diddy surface, accusations involving trafficking, coercion, and a chilling list of alleged victims, JayZ's name begins appearing in adjacent civil suits. One particularly disturbing lawsuit alleges that both men were present at an after-party in 2000 where a young girl was assaulted. JayZ, through his lawyers, has called the allegations blackmail and nonsense. But that doesn't change the fact that his name is in the documents. And in this environment, that alone is enough to raise serious questions.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce.
Former insiders, including one of Diddy's own ex-bodyguards, have gone on record suggesting that these moguls operated within an insular, self-protecting elite, a circle where favors were traded, reputations were managed, and inconvenient truths were silenced. Uncle Ron, as he was known online, alleged in now-deleted videos that major figures, including JayZ and Diddy, collaborated to protect each other and suppress damaging information. He even implied that Biggie's demise was tied to internal betrayals. While none of this has been proven in court, the whispers have grown louder as lawsuit after lawsuit pulls the curtain back on what some are calling the entertainment syndicate. And the tactics alleged in Rymir's case, stealing documents, misdirection, institutional delays, look uncomfortably familiar. Now ask yourself this: if this was just about one man avoiding a DNA test, why would multiple courts allegedly bend procedures? Why would key documents go missing? Why would an entire legal team work for years to dodge something that could be resolved with a simple swab? The answer might lie not in what's being denied, but in what could be revealed. Because if Rymir is proven to be JayZ's son, then the timeline leads straight back to Wanda's age, and the implications become radioactive. It opens the door to questions about statutory law, cover-ups, and the abuse of power by people who were never supposed to be held accountable.
If that's part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freak-offs. So that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you gonna do it again, that ain't gonna make it with the government or nobody.
And right in the center of this legal spiderweb sits Tina Knowles. According to several industry insiders and leaked communications, Tina has operated like the family's unofficial crisis manager. Some claim she funds settlements through what's been described as a quiet fund, a slush pool of money used to neutralize threats before they reach the press. Others say she's used her influence with certain court officials to keep the Carter name out of headlines. One former staffer called her the true mastermind, while another said she's not just protecting her family, she's protecting a legacy. But is that protection coming at the expense of the truth? Because the more aggressively Tina defends JayZ, the more questions people have about her role in this machinery of silence. Why does she seem more publicly invested in shielding her son-in-law than her own daughter, Beyonce? Why is she reportedly the one calling attorneys and arranging meetings behind the scenes? And most disturbingly, why are some former employees suggesting that her efforts go beyond legal strategy and into something far more esoteric? We're talking about private rituals, spiritual symbols, even whispers of occult practices used to cleanse situations that threaten the family's image. Are these stories exaggerated? Probably. But when a family is this powerful, even the rumors take on a life of their own.
Really a conspiracy if the same person keeps benefiting off the same kind of tragedy over and over?
Especially when the music industry has a long, uncomfortable history of erasing inconvenient truths. We've seen it before. Whispers become lawsuits, lawsuits become settlements, and then silence. But not this time, because Rymir Satterthwaite refuses to disappear. With every denied appeal and sealed record, he's only gotten louder. And now, as public attention turns to the inner workings of the industry's elite, his case feels like a lit fuse, burning steadily towards something explosive. And if that explosion comes, it might not stop at JayZ. The fallout could engulf Tina, Beyonce, Diddy, and anyone who participated in the years-long suppression of truth. Because this story isn't just about a birthright, it's about a culture of control, a pattern of manipulation, and a fear that if one secret slips out, the whole house of cards might come tumbling down.
See, there's no artist, let me be clear, there's no artist in this industry that's doing major numbers with these platforms that haven't sold their soul.
So what happens if that DNA test finally happens? What if a simple swab proves what Rymir and his mother have claimed all along? Are we ready for the shockwaves that truth could send through pop culture? Could the Carters' empire survive the revelation that their entire narrative was built on a lie, protected not by lawyers, but by intimidation, silence, and maybe something even darker? Let us know what you think in the comments. Could this be the beginning of the end for one of the most untouchable dynasties in entertainment? Or just another scandal they'll sweep away like the rest? Either way, we're watching. Stay sharp, stay curious, and until next time, keep your eyes open and your receipts ready.